We want to welcome everyone today as we get ready for day 2 of the virtual curriculum webinar series. We are pleased to have with us this morning Pflaum Bayard Publishing, and to join us today is Terry Cotting-Mogan. She is the Western Regional Manager, and we have David DeZena, who is the publisher for Pflaum and Bayard. So we're very excited and very grateful to have you with us today. Again, if you're just joining us for the very first time today, we're doing the virtual curriculum webinar series in order to allow us to explore the different options that we have moving forward. As you know, faith formation will not look the same for us moving forward for various reasons. And so this is a very wonderful opportunity to look at how these programs can be utilized in your faith formation programs as a blended program, a hybrid, online. So all of these publishers are taking the time to really answer any questions you may have. And so we're very blessed to have this opportunity with them today. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Terry and to David, but just a reminder, please place your microphones on mute. Again, use the chat for any questions you may have during the presentation, and the team will be responding accordingly throughout the hour we'll be together. So with that, we'll turn it over to Terry and David. Welcome this morning.
Hey, thanks so much. All right, David's going to start us with an opening prayer.
This is the World Meeting of Family prayer that Pope Francis wrote for the last ceremony, and I think it's a very timely prayer, not only for what's happening in our church, but also in our world. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. God and Father of us all, in Jesus your Son and our Savior, you have made us your sons and daughters. In the family of the church, may your grace and love help our families in every part of the world to be united to one another in fidelity to the gospel. May the example of the Holy Family, with the aid of your Holy Spirit, guide all families, especially those most troubled, to be homes of communion and prayer, and to always seek your truth and live in your love. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Well, how are you all doing? Okay, let's nod since you're not, that you're doing okay. Joseph, I see you got a beard after all of this, you know. These are certainly challenging times, and I miss being with everybody, though it's nice to be able to have opportunities to do this, and I'm very grateful for the Diocese of San Diego for helping us out. And we find ourselves asking so many questions. You know, it's really hard for people like me who are a planner. You know, I like to kind of work out and know what's going to happen. And now all of a sudden we're in a situation where we don't know what's going to happen 2 weeks from now, never mind what's going to happen in the fall, right? So we find ourselves asking, okay, are there going to be questions? Do we still have to do remote learning? And if we do remote learning, are our catechists going to want to teach those classes, or are we going to expect parents to teach those classes? And if we have classes, who's going to clean the room? Who's going to clean materials? How young of children will actually wear masks and keep them on the whole time? You know, I mean, you've got all of these questions that you're kind of playing out. And even if you have classes, will some of your parents even want those kids to go to classes? Just for fear of being in those kind of group sessions. And if you know, are looking at the parents teaching, we want to say, how do we get the materials to them? Or are we just doing digital? And how can we ensure that they're actually doing anything at all? Because a lot of them are overwhelmed if they're also working at home as well. And I'm sure you've had that sense over the last few months, what that's going to look like. But I think we can all agree that it probably, what we were doing in February is not going to be doing what we're going to be doing in fall. So now we need to kind of look differently at that. And somebody raised the question to me the other day. They said, okay, if our catechists are teaching remotely, what are the safety guidelines for all of that? So I'm sure your diocese, you know, has been working on those kind of questions to say, how do you handle that? Does that mean you have to have 2 catechists on a remote lesson, or a parent has to be in a room? So those are the types of things that you're all kind of being faced with. I think that also we're going to look at whatever happens in January is going to even be different than what we're doing in September. So I'm going to urge you to choose materials that are flexible. And we're going to talk about how flexible our materials are for you, because we don't know and things are going to be changing rapidly. So you may have classes, let's say, for older kids, but your pre-K and your kindergartners may still be being taught remotely from home because of mask issues. I think that the most important thing we can do as we're going into talking about this and you're making decisions about what you want to do is to remember we still have to have a faith formation focus and not to get so tangled up in all the details of what's going to happen in the fall. We need to remember that we have to help our families stay connected to our parishes. So we can send everything out to them remotely, and we want them to have a home church, but we also want them to come back to us and be part of our parish community. So we want to be able to look at how we're doing that, because staying connected is what's going to form practicing Catholics. And that's our goal, is to do that, is not just to make sure that they're getting Catholic facts in, but how are we helping them form practicing Catholics? In the same way that I often tell, if you've been to any of my in-services, I can take a course on Judaism and learn everything there is to be about being Jewish. But that's not going to make me Jewish. What makes me Jewish is if I'm practicing the faith. So we can have a lot of young people through all of this learn all about being Catholic, but that doesn't necessarily make them Catholic if we're not helping them practice their faith, whether we're doing that at home or in the church community. So we're going to talk to you today about how we do that, how we're going to help families, how we're flexible, and how we help families stay connected to aid you in forming Catholics. I put my email address in the chat. David has done that as well. And if you want to request samples, you certainly can email us, or actually samples, you should email me. If you have other types of questions, you can email David on this, and then we can make sure things get out to you. We're going to, as Mariella commented, what we're going to try to do is answer questions in the chat as we're speaking. David and I are going to go back and forth on different products, and we'll take turns going on that. The other person who is here, but she's not on, you ought to show your camera, Jennifer. Jennifer, if you've talked with Jennifer Broad, there she is. So she's at home. So if you can, so you will, no, where'd she go? I thought she was on a minute. I know she's still here, but she's also on as well. But I think she's just on audio to be kind of listen and to deal with questions as well. The first thing that I want to talk about is the Gospel Weeklies. When we're looking at the Gospel Weeklies, oh, that's great. My screen will not show my Chrome. I should have practiced with that. Anyway, I'll have to just show you this one. Let's see, hold on just a second. Nope. Well, I pulled up the website and now I'm not being able to show it. I'm not exactly sure why that happened.
I can show mine if you need to.
That would be great, David.
You have to stop sharing your screen.
Oh, yeah.
Just show the website?
Yeah, I just wanted to show the Pflaum Weekly's website, just so they could see what the materials look like. I saw every other document I have up, but not, oh, yay, okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to highlight 5 points why I believe that the Pflaum Gospel Weeklies is your best choice. The first one is our methodology. It's liturgical catechesis. The liturgical year is the basis of our doctrinal beliefs and how we express our faith. The Sunday Gospel is in each of the 32 lessons. And the Gospel is important because that's where we learn about Jesus. You know, otherwise you're just doing Christmas or Easter in a lot of our textbooks. We want to make sure we're learning much more about him. So we're going to reflect on the gospel and see how our doctrine kind of blossoms or flows from it. And because we're in the liturgical year, when we're in Advent, all our lessons are in Advent. So you're not having to look for that Advent lesson in the back of the book. This also means that the topics that the U.S. bishops say need to be taught every year, we are putting those on the same weeks. That means if your second grader is talking about something, your fourth grader is also talking about it, developmentally different, of course, but they're also being able to have that family thrust. And if they're able to go to church and then they're hearing the homily is also going to be touching on the gospel and that doctrine as well. So you have that complete family movement and family catechesis happening. It also allows, when your faith formation is rooted in your liturgical year, it helps strengthen the Catholic identity, meaning how does the student identify themselves as Catholic? What are their favorite prayers? What are their favorite seasons? The second point is it's an alternative to a textbook. Our student lessons are shipped 8 lessons at a time through 4 shipments, and there's a lot of benefits to being in a non-text format. It doesn't feel like class to them, which is especially important to those young people who are struggling in their day-to-day school. It also allows it to go home. For young people, like when I used to teach and I would sub in a first grade classroom and they'd have a textbook and they wanted all the first graders to get to page 40, and it took us 10 minutes to get to page 40. And as soon as you get them all there, somebody loses it and then you're back, oh, they're trying to get to page 40 again. So what you want to be able to have is them to be able to focus just on the lesson so that the little ones where they're at, but also you've got older kids that you're maybe on page 40 and they're looking at pictures on 150. So you want them all kind of focused and moving together on that. The lessons are paired with a doctrinal handbook. Do we have a picture on the website here? Oh, you're just going to show it that way? All right.
That way.
Okay.
We have one for each level like this, yes.
Right. And they are, this handbook covers everything the U.S. bishops say should be introduced or mastered at their developmental age, set up by the pillars of the church, followed by prayers and then vocabulary. You don't go through it like a typical textbook. You're jumping around in it and you're using it every lesson to reinforce the doctrine and expand the doctrine that's in those individual.
I would say it's like a reference book, or actually like the catechism where you would look up particular sections.
Right, that's a really good way of kind of looking at that. The other thing is they're available, the weeklies are available in English or in a bilingual version. The bilingual version is different than what you would think. So here's your English version. We do our bilingual in a flip format rather than a side-by-side, which makes it easier for the students as well, except for the handbook that David pointed out, that what the church believes and teaches. That's done in a side-by-side bilingual. One of the things I really like the way that it was done, though, is that the pictures are different. Let me see if I can.
I have one here.
Okay. Oh, here's the example. Here's
Here's
the bilingual one. See how it's side by side, but the pictures are different? So it still becomes visually more attractive to the young people as well.
One of the main reasons why we did a flip book format is because, especially in the lower levels, there's cutout or folding activities, and you can't do that obviously with a side-by-side. And we find that in most cases, parents are the ones reading the Spanish. I mean, that may differ in different parishes, but then that way the parents are looking at the full lesson that way, and the children can look at it in English or it could be taught in English.
Good. The third point is that we use levels versus grades, which means our student lessons are divided up into, so we have seeds, as you can see on here for preschool, promises K to 1, good news is 2nd and 3rd, venture is 4 through 6, and vision is 7th grade and up. The levels are not written on the materials, and that gives you flexibility. that gives you flexibility in grouping kids together, but it also allows you to put a special needs child at an appropriate level, whereas they may be in 6th grade age-wise, but they need to be using good news. They need to a reading level, if it's on the 2nd grade level, but they don't feel like they're in a 2nd grade book, so they won't feel like they're being treated like babies. So it's even that way. But because we're liturgically based, you're not repeating lessons from year to year because the readings obviously change. We're in a 3-year cycle, so it's always fresh for them. The 4th point is the fact that the materials are written about 6 months ahead of time. Is that correct, David? About 6 months?
Usually, yeah.
Okay. That allows the editorial team to reflect on current events, popular culture, fashion, that. If you're a textbook company who is putting together materials and then they're hoping to have it sit on the shelves for 4 to 7 years, you've got to be very careful about language, fashion, cultural, pop culture, because those are going to be mocked by older kids. Whereas our editorial team then can really use that to advantage, so the young people can look at things and say, oh, whether you're children or youth, can say, I can relate to that. This is part of my day-to-day life.
I can give you a quick example. In just 3 years, we've gone from mentioning CDs or certain video games to the next year, the 3-year cycle comes around. We've updated those references to different, more current references.
Well, David, you guys are also been able to handle canonizations.
Yes,
what happened. I mean, so
and even the current virus too. We were talking in the fall about how the church has adapted and how we minister, and the church is the church even if the buildings are closed.
That's a good point. David, do you want to just do a 2-second or a few minutes on what topics for fall coming up that you can think of?
Well, different things in terms of some new saints about to be canonized. We're able to, even with the Blesseds that the Knights of Columbus founder, for example, we're able to include that. And then also, like I just mentioned about the virus too, that we're going to integrate different ways without it being a doom and gloom approach, but just show how the church is adapting to the current crisis. And we work those into the lessons at an age-appropriate level.
Great. And then our 5th one is the fact that we have free teacher guides. We provide one free catechist guide for every 10 student copies. If you need more than that, they're available on the website. The guides will give catechists some scriptural doctrinal background as well as a timeline for the 60 or 90-minute classes. The teacher guide has a 3-step process. We're going to start where the kids are at. Then we're going to proclaim the gospel. And that is usually, except for the littlest ones, that's done in parts, so you can act it out or do a reader's theater with that. And then we're going to see how the doctrine flows out of that. And as part of that step includes how part of the lesson on using the handbook. And then the 3rd part is we ask ourselves, so based on what we've learned, how does that tell us how to live? What is the gospel asking from us in terms of forming a Christian community? This fall, we'll have an additional guide for parents that are teaching their children at home. It's a little simpler version so that they don't have to try to adapt the catechist version when they're teaching. And I think that'll be really helpful for parents. We also have additional activity books and CDs. The weeklies will be available in a print or a digital version. And for a small amount, I don't think it's been finalized yet, David, but it's about $1.50 difference probably.
Yeah, it would be more than that
both.
For both. If you're getting both.
Yeah, if you want both versions. Another option, if parents are teaching at home, is to have a pickup party. We're calling it a drive-through something.
Different, you can name it as whatever fun thing you want.
Yeah, so we've made it up
as party, and others have wanted a parking lot pickup, so we be creative with the name.
Yeah, I think it depends on how old you are, whether pickup is a negative thing. So we're going to hook up with the materials. But it's written up. It'll be online. I
can show some of that later.
Picking up what?
I was going to show some of those samples. Just a quick.
Okay, when you do yours, that's great.
Yeah.
So it'll allow you to have some stations and stuff to be able to make it kind of fun, and then you especially get that in people's hands. If you order through me or through Jennifer and you were on here, just give us a heads up that I mentioned that we'll give you a shipping discount. So, and hopefully that answered a lot of your basic information. The website he's got up on here is pflaumweeklies.com, and you can look at a lot of the materials that are there. We have a lot of online resources, but David's going to cover some of that toward the end as well.
Terry, I do want to mention a couple of things about the way the lessons are presented too. During this time, we're finding that some parishes are trying to figure out how to sanitize and deal with that. And you won't have to worry about sanitizing the lessons because they're one and they go out. So that has been an advantage. Some pastors actually have commented on that, which is very helpful. That they don't have to worry about keeping the books saved in the classroom or sharing them and that kind of thing. The other is that whether the churches are open or closed, or if the families go to Mass, COVID or no COVID, they're learning about the gospel every week. And that's been a very important thing, especially during this time. And Terry mentioned this as well. The 32 lessons have a doctrinal concept tied to every one. And not only in the handbook, but in the activity books that the Blackline Master activity books that we provide cover 32 doctrinal concepts. So every year from preschool through grade 9, those 32 concepts, one for each lesson, are covered. And that ensures a spiral approach in an age-appropriate way, even in the midst of the changing liturgical year. So it kind of grounds it in solid doctrine every year of the cycle throughout the whole formation program. And that's a real important thing because some have said, well, liturgical catechesis, the Gospels jump around, it's hard to have a flow or systematic approach. So we've grounded it in these 32 concepts. And you can see that on the samples online, and Terry can certainly share those with you, of the 32 themes that are covered in the activity books. Things like the sacraments and the Beatitudes and the commandments and things like that. The key things from preschool through grade 9. I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned those points.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good to add. Thank you. All right. So we want to talk a little bit more about family catechesis. And David's going to chat about that because we're been expanding that as well.
Okay. You can see that now? Did it come up?
Yep.
Okay. So part of our the Gospel Weeklies, part of our program, we have this has been around for quite a while now, and it's kind of grown over the years too, called the Gospel for All Ages. It's the family catechesis, or even could be whole community catechesis module or component to the Gospel Weeklies. And there's on our website on the program directors tab, you would see that this would be one of the options. And there's Terry could also give you a code to access the stuff that's behind our password protected site if you would like to sample and look through some of this. So there are different options here. There's a gathering ritual for each week. So if you wanted to meet as a group, some families, some parishes meet with families as a group each week, and then they go off and learn in clusters, or the parents stay in the class, in the group, and then the children go to class during that time. And we have outlines for that in English and Spanish. And all of this helps you to customize your program. And we can help you with this. So if you say to Terry, well, I have a home study and I have once a month program, we can utilize these resources to help build that program for you. Then we have seasonal events. So if you met quarterly, here's a fall event, an Advent event, Lent, Pentecost, and we did a summer. And that pickup party that Terry was talking about would be an added one that we'll have here. And just to give you a peek at this gives you an outline for coming back, setting up a gathered event to kick off the year. So this would be just, I'm going to scroll through it quickly, but you could see here just about there's a checklist of things, and it gives you actual prayers and resources as well. So that's that out. So you can meet weekly, however, every other week, or quarterly. And the way that that pickup party outline would be is to show you how to use that the 4 times. So if you were going to set up the home study and have the families come 4 times a year to pick up those 8 lessons each time, we would have that outline for you. And people are doing it in a variety of ways already, even this past year when this started happening. They've had parents gather in their cars in the parking lot, and they have an app which lets them broadcast from their radio, the phone to the radios in the car, and they do a prayer service, and then they drive by and pick up the packets. There's many different ways. You can just schedule it where they come by and they get a free gift or some kind of resource family activity that comes with it. So it's like a little extra incentive to come and pick up their resources. The Gospel Weeklies work best, of course, in the printed lesson, but we may not always have that option, which is why we're adding the digital resource. And we're finding that the kids are getting fatigued of the Zoom approach. Maybe parents are too. So having the print lesson and maybe even a catechist visually online may be the way. So are you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, do you know when the pickup party is going to be online? We're
going to post it on July 1st. And we can share it with those who have subscribed. We can share it ahead of time. People are finishing the year still, believe it or not, even though our lessons ended in mid-May, their parents are still catching up or they're finalizing. So we're not switching anything over to the new year until July 1st. But if you need any resource ahead of time, if you're using the program, we can get that out. So there's ways to publicize these events. And then we have also Summer Family Corners, which we started last year. Part of our program, every lesson, every week has a family. I'll give you an example. Every lesson has a prayer and a question of the week, no matter which level. So they're all the same questions and prayers across the levels. We've written them at a basic, age appropriate, that a preschooler can understand it, also up to an 8th or 9th grader. And that's available in English and Spanish in our lessons. And then there's additional in church or about the gospel background for parents and families. For the summer, when we don't have lessons, we've added these for you, that every week you can be sending these home as a part of a newsletter. Some have put it in their parish bulletin. So everybody all through the year are learning the prayer and the question and having that as a discussion, so they're on topic. So that whether you're in a religion program, formation program, or in a adult and Bible study, you're on the same question and prayer each week. So that's another resource here. And then evaluation and director's manual. And then we also have this other resource for adults while the children are learning. It's called Exploring the Sunday Readings. It's great for our CIA or adult Bible study. It gives a quick summary of the gospel, the readings, actually all the readings for the Mass each week. So that's in terms of family catechesis. Then I'm going to jump over, if I can switch screens. I'm going to share a different screen if you give me a second. I have 3 screens open, so you have to bear with me. I want to show you just a quick peek at the parent guide. Let's see. So we've really scaled back our teaching guide even further. Usually our teaching pages are 2 pages in a spread for teachers and catechists. We've scaled it back probably around a page and a half, but it's in a checkbox format where you would just check off each thing as you complete the lesson. Really basic, an opening prayer, the answers to an activity, about reading, how to read, reading the story or the discussion questions, the gospel, how to go to the doctrinal handbook, which would also be available digitally or in print. And then the faith word and the saints and activities and closing prayer. Then there's a QR code and a web address that takes the parents directly to the free resources online for parents that includes weekly videos and online assessments and other seasonal resources that are available. So this is a way just to get them, really just get them directly to those pages without much trouble. And this will be, these parent guides will be available in Spanish as well. And then here's a peek at the drive-through. So it's really planning steps, announcing the event, setting the schedule, all the materials that you could, would need to just give you lots of ideas and different stations. And Terry really had a big influence on how to write this based on all the things that she's been hearing that people doing throughout California. And then a sample letter also, if you were to write about pickup with the times, the schedule, especially in a large program. So I'd say that's probably the biggest part. Is there something else you wanted me to mention, Terry, about family?
I have two things. One, somebody just asked for a hyperlink to resources embedded in digital form. I think what they just need to do is know how to register and how to access them themselves. Wouldn't you say that would be the best thing, David?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, okay. We also have another question that when you finish the family piece, can you just go back a little bit and comment on pacing for, just RCIA, how it's adapted, how we can use it. I mentioned that there's pacing guides in the weeklies. We also have some templates to be able to reflect on the Gospels. Do you have anything you want to add on RCIA?
Yeah, let me just pull that up. You want to see if there's any other question while I'm doing that. Give me a second.
So if you're looking to be able to access online resources, right now, if you are a customer, hopefully you've been accessing it. I'm using your customer number, and that will be good until the end of July 31st. And then if you are not and you want to see what's online, or you don't know how to get on. So if you're a customer and don't know how to get on, hit up Jennifer and myself. We will send you instructions on how to do that. If you haven't been a customer this past year of the weeklies and you want to see what's been online, just hit us up. We will give you a temporary one that will also be good until the end of July so that you can look at materials and have a better sense of what's there as well.
Okay. So we have, as part of the Catechist Teacher, if you're on this and you go to Catechist and Teachers and you click on, and one of the options on the side is this thing called pacing plans. This is another way that we help customize the program for you. So if you're in a parish program or a school program, there are resources. I'll skip over RCIA for a second. Family catechesis, I just kind of gave you a quick overview of that. Summer, home instruction, or parish-wide, special needs, children's liturgy word, if you're at the military base, and using Gospel Weeklies with sacramental preparation. But looking at the RCIA page, there are several different resources that we have for you. So there's just an overview of how the program would work, so I invite you to look at that. And then also some videos in English and Spanish that break down the different parts of the RCIA process and how the weeklies would work. And these are also available on YouTube. So Terry can certainly get you this page and get you these links if you request that. But one thing we do each year, we have a correlation for every Sunday Gospel and the RCIA focus for that week. So if you're having a session for RCIA, and it could be a discussion question for adults. So if the family's coming in to the faith, you'd have something for adults and for children as well for each week. So it links the lessons to whatever is happening in RCIA at the time. And then we have we've review templates, and these could be used also if you don't like traditional assessments with question and answer quiz type things. These are very basic. Draw a picture of this week's gospel story, or as an older level, write about one thing you learned this week. So you know if they're going to be completing the lesson or not by how they answer the questions. But for RCIA, this is this was suggested as like a journal. So each week, as the children are learning about the Gospels, breaking open the Word, they're kind of documenting what they're learning about in those Gospels, and it becomes like a memento or a journal by the end of the whole experience. And then we have since the scrutinies are in the year A readings, we have, and this year was year A, so it's kind of repetitive this year, but for the year B and C, we provide the lessons for those scrutiny lessons. So especially if even as a program, your parish is using the year A readings on Sunday, your lessons may not match up because they're going to use that cycle's readings. But you can go online here, and we provide the lessons for the scrutinies. So you always have those year A lessons available if you needed them. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, no, I think that's helpful. The other pieces that are on the website, David will cover toward the end, which includes, videos. We have videos for every week, just like additional supplemental things. There was a question, again, if you want to see some of the online stuff, you'd need to register for that. So either customer or a non-customer, email myself or Jennifer, and we will give you instructions on how to do that. We got a question, David. I don't know if you know the answer to this. Do we have materials in French since Bayer is French?
Not the weeklies, but we do have. I'm at my house, but yeah, I brought everything home. You see, if there's something in French that you particularly need looking for, you could ask. We actually have these translated in English for RCIA. Also, I'll show you the English ones. They're little booklets that cover each sacrament, and they're for ages maybe I'd say 9 to 12 if they're preparing for sacraments, and we have teaching pages that go along with this, and then there's one for the liturgical year as well. So these work.
So Nancy, it sounds like your best bet is to email David, and he can make you.
These were in French, and we had them translated, so you can.
Right.
Okay. We can probably get resources to you if you needed something in French. Yes.
Okay. All right. You're all hanging in there with us? Thank you. Okay, so now I do not know why my screen sharing, I'm not able to access my my desktop or my I pulled up and also where I pulled up the websites, my Chrome. So when I see share screen, that was something we should have practiced today. I had problems with that yesterday with Jennifer, and it's not allowing it. So I don't know why. That's something we'll have to.
Is something else you need me to pull up?
Let's pull up a picture of Together in Jesus, or the website even would be fine.
Sure.
I don't know why it's not doing that to me. If anybody has a really good understanding of why that's doing that, email me. I have other things coming up. Okay, so Together in Jesus is our sacramental prep program. It's English or bilingual. And it's preparing children for the opportunity to receive the sacraments. And again, we're hoping to make them practicing Catholics and not just this one time they receive Eucharist and move on. So first I want to comment on the folder and what's inside of it. So they're set up exactly the same way so that once families have gone through reconciliation, they will understand how Eucharist is going to work. You'll also see on these are sturdy folders that they can use to be carrying things back and forth. You are able to find this information by going to pflaum.com. And then in the upper right-hand corner, you will see a logo for Together in Jesus.
It's like up here.
Yeah,
yep. Up here.
Yeah, you'll see that. And when you click on that, it'll take you to all of our information on the sacraments.
Yeah, and there's a quick overview of the program webinar we did in English and Spanish too.
Mm-hmm. So the folder is able to taking things back and forth. This reconciliation one includes some prayers. It also includes the act of contrition. how to receive the sacrament, and that's the same thing on the other one as well. The other thing that I think is important, since we're in California, is that all the artwork that you're going to see in here has been done by Deacon Jim Burrows, who's out of the Diocese of Monterey. So a Catholic artist in our backyard. That's just kind of to be able to have him utilize stuff here. And also, we've been, at a number of our events have been raffling off, and we have somebody, I don't want to call her name out, but we have somebody that's on today that she won the, I think a couple of years ago, the print that we did. So when it's set up, so inside here, you're going to see 6, let me pull out the teacher guide. There are going to be 6 immediate prep lessons. And in like the weeklies, they are in a pamphlet format for them. So that allows them to go home. And the catechist, again, will take the lessons apart so the kids can learn, will only focus on each lesson at a time. Again, if you have a textbook, sometimes they're not able to go home because you're worried if they'll ever come back, or at least this can go in the folder and be used to come back and forth. The other thing that you're going to find in here in this packet is stickers. I always say that the catechist, though, should keep the stickers and dole them out so that you don't have somebody wearing all the stickers on the first lesson. But the stickers are used for a couple things. One is, there is in the stickers, let me pull them out here. There's a nameplate that you can use to put on the folder, and there's a little sticker for when they complete each lesson to put on the lesson. And then there's a sticker that goes on each lesson where it's connected to the doctrinal piece. So again, you'll see, let me pull up a lesson here. You're on the second page of this one. It's referring to a cross that's on here and where you would put the sticker. Then besides that, you will also have in here, if you have and everything will be in English and Spanish if you get the bilingual version. So it is not in a flip book format. It's set up completely separate.
It actually will be this fall.
Oh, it will? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, you got breaking news over me here.
Yes. Yeah, people have been really requesting that the flip book, so we were going to offer it that way.
Okay, that's great. There's also a 4-page question and answer piece for parents, kind of stuff that you would do in your parent meeting, but then it goes home with them so they have it in writing, questions that they may have about preparing their young people for the sacraments. And then there is a family poster. I used to say it was refrigerator art, but I don't know about you, but my refrigerator does not magnetize. So I don't know where, so you'd have to kind of tape it somewhere. But I also think so what it is an activity that if they're in classes, it would be an activity that the parents would do when the kids came home after each lesson. It's very simple, easy to be able to do. I suggest that you find a way to perhaps have this poster come back and forth each time. They could spend a couple minutes in the class kind of talking about it, but what had happened to be able to keep kids and families pacing and moving forward. What you don't want to have happen at the end is some family do some marathon night and go through every lesson. In the same way too, if you're doing it remotely and the families are keeping it, I've seen parishes who've been able to kind of do it on a Zoom where they'll do this and kind of talk about it. But you need to be, you don't want people to do like, okay, our first Eucharist liturgy is this weekend, so we better get through all 6 of our lessons. So you want to be able to pace them on a regular basis. Because in the bilingual one, this is also in English or Spanish, this allows you, if you wanted to, teach it in English, but the family could choose to do all of this at home in Spanish. So it's kind of where their comfort level is and what makes most sense for the family. Each lesson has an emphasis on prayer with an opening prayer and a closing ritual, which I really like a lot. There's also an additional page that you can use at home or you could use with the class as well. There is a ton of free online bonus resources.
I have that page up here.
Right, and you can see that we also have music CDs. We also have music CDs in Spanish now, double CD. There's coloring pages. There is information for parents. And we also have videos, again, just like we did with the weeklies, where we're having weekly videos. We have videos that are connected to individual lessons, and those are also in Spanish and English. Most of the videos that we have are what I would say in the 3 to 6 minute range. Wouldn't you say that, David?
Yes.
So they're not taking over your lesson. What they're doing is really enhancing your lesson. So if you don't have time to be able to, we don't want just parents just showing videos, but this is a great option. And if you're also in the classroom and you don't have time or ability to access the videos, this is something that parents can just go on and access this. This is not gated, so that you can get in to look at these materials. And then you'll be able to, and parents could look at the videos themselves on their own time if they wanted to do that. David, do you want to comment on, we did make these available digitally this spring.
Yes, they will be as well.
Okay.
Yeah, all our programs will be available digitally, including the Children's Liturgy of the Word, Children Celebrate Together in Jesus also, and our confirmation program, Gifted with the Spirit. We also, on our bonus resources site, and you can look at this all yourself as well, as Terry mentioned. We have these lesson preview videos that are great for catechists as well as parents that walk through in only 3 minutes how to teach the lesson. So if the parents are learning this at home, teaching at home, this would be a very simple thing that they could watch ahead of teaching the lesson. And we also have teaching pages as well, a home guide for parents, that very simple guide for each lesson if they are teaching the lessons at home too. Can I mention the family books? Is that okay now?
Yeah, go ahead. Jump in. Yeah.
We have, this came from customer requests actually too. Terry mentioned the folders, and it's that format has been very popular, that the lessons can go home individually. Some people have said while they like that, they also like the idea of having a keepsake component for sacrament prep. So this year we're releasing these family memory and activity books, that one for each sacrament in English or Spanish, to really have like a keepsake. And this extends the program, enhances the program. And this is really for families to work together. So if you're doing the lessons in a session, this would be a great companion piece at home. And if the parents are teaching at home, this would also just add to what they're doing in a fun way. So they have a place here to write their name, the children. Then the lesson themes, as Terry mentioned, like there are 6 in Eucharist or 6 in Reconciliation. The activities, they match the same themes in the full program. There's an introduction page that gives an overview for parents, especially if a parent, this is helpful, if a parent's not Catholic or not practicing, gives them a quick overview of the sacrament and what's going to be in this book. And then each lesson will have a background for parents, just in general, and then specifically about the doctrinal concept that's taught for that lesson. Then there's a QR code that goes right to those parent teaching pages. So this is very helpful to get parents, again, directly to where they're teaching if they need that outline to teach at home. And then every lesson has a scripture activity or a doctrine activity. If the scripture is covered in the actual lesson in the folder, this activity expands that scripture story. Some of those lessons, say if they're liturgical or about the Mass, may not have a scripture taught in the lesson. So we've correlated the theme and have a scripture activity here. So every lesson will have a scripture story covered, whether it's in the student lesson or in this family book. And then the doctrinal activity expands the concept from the doctrine that's taught in that lesson. And then every lesson concludes with a family activity, which is more interactive activity for families with a family prayer. Then the back of every book has prayers to know. And so this is similar to the folder, but it's another way to keep this beyond the prep time. And then also how to receive the sacrament would be here. And then there's a keepsake kind of scrapbook page at the end of every one. This one is memories from my first Holy Communion. These people, these are the people who shared this special day with me, and they can have people write their name or a note, draw a picture, or paste pictures, however you want to do that. That's here. So this is something we're really excited about. It's just coming out now. I think it just arrived in the warehouse.
Yeah, I've not seen it in person. And they're very inexpensive, aren't they, David?
Yeah, especially when you buy it in conjunction with the program.
Right. So that's great to be able to kind of look at that as well. The teacher guides, when will they be available to purchase? They're in the warehouse now. So to answer that question, I would say you could order them now. And if you need to, we can have them shipped after July 1st. We also can delay terms on anything to get you into fall, because I know a lot of people are caught with not having collections coming in as well. With the our sacrament programs, I would see those are written for second and third graders. They can be used with some fourth graders. I saw Jennifer put in the chat about
these.
We have two options. So those books that David talked about in French, we are now having those in English.
Right, that's the ones I showed you. And then we have teaching pages for each of those that come with your order too. So you can use these as either at home where the parents would read them with children, or children read on their own, and the parents can use these teaching pages, or if a RCIA.
So yeah, so they're like 9 to 12. Or Jennifer commented also in the chat about the reproducible books we have for for First Eucharist, First Reconciliation.
Oh, the activity books, yes.
Yes, they're $10.95, so you're just making copies for them. I have one parish here in Northern California, since I'm in San Jose, that has a lot of people, a lot of young people, and so they just buy the book for them rather than make copies. But we can talk about how that works. Teacher guides for Together in Jesus are not free. There is a charge for them. You can get them in English or in Spanish. Spanish is half the price of the English one. That never happens. I don't know why, but it does. It's not as glossy, but it's a complete translation. But if you're new to the Sacrament Prep, you have not ordered from us before, talk to Jennifer and I, and we'll give you one free teacher guide for every 20 student copies as well. Can your material be used with Google Slides during Catechist remote learning? Do you know that?
No, I'm not aware of that. I'm assuming, I mean, certainly you can email me directly and maybe we can look into that.
Okay, yeah, because
check with our IT people.
I don't have a clue on that myself. All right, so we talked about RCIA. I think we're slowly covering everything that I'm seeing in there. We are gonna actually give you other chances to be able to ask some questions, but we wanna make sure we cover all the material we can for you. Oh, there we go. There's a link to that. Expand on any resources for students with special needs. Oh, that's really good that we missed that. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a link here. I'm not share my screen anymore, am I?
No, you're not.
Okay, hang on.
You can?
Yeah, I will. We have accommodations for children with special needs for the Together in Jesus program that walks through each lesson and that give background of the program and how it could be adapted for children with special needs. That I'd say,
and that's all digital. That's all on the website. You can see that now if you went on the
right. Yeah, you would see that here. And then for those using the Gospel Weeklies, I would say that the Good News level tends to be the most popular one used for children with special needs. And we have some resources on the Gospel Weekly site for that. There's some in terms of the pacing or background information on how to adapt. And we're looking at doing more down the road, but particularly for Sacrament Prep, we have these pages already.
We also have Together with Jesus, if you're using the weeklies with it, how to blend them together. I do think it's important that anybody who is receiving sacraments and going through preparation, that you're still reflecting on the gospel every week, and because we want them going to church. And when it comes to going back one step to the special needs, Andrea West, out of the Diocese of Orange, she does a lot of trainings on using special materials with special needs, and she uses this all the time. So she's going to put together a video on using our materials, but she also is real helpful. We can always get you in touch with her as well. And I also have a link for somebody, I mean, not a link, a person, they're not a link, in the Diocese of Sacramento, who has her master's and works especially with special needs with autism. So if you ever find yourself in a special needs situation, I also have somebody in Las Vegas who does all kinds of special need work, more developmental there, that if you find yourself saying, how do I adapt this for special needs? We can make some links for you and connections for you to materials to help you utilize it as well. So David, do you want to talk about confirmation? And our new confirmation program in Spanish as well.
Yes, let me pull that up. Gifted with the Spirit is our confirmation program. We have it available at 2 different levels. You can also see that here, the same website, and you just click on Gifted with the Spirit.
Actually, David, we're not able to see.
Oh, I didn't hit share yet. Thank you.
Okay.
I had it ready and didn't hit share. The same thing for Gospel Weeklies, Together in Jesus, Gifted with the Spirit, and then the Children's Liturgy of the Word program, Children Celebrate. All of these, if you click on, you would go to the resources and an overview of the program. So we have it available in junior or senior high. Some use it as a level 1, level 2, especially if you have a 2-year preparation. They obviously cover confirmation in both levels, but in a different way, that just some slightly different approaches. So you're not learning the same thing twice in exactly the same way. It definitely would reinforce more than repeat. So it's one, like I said, one unified program. This has been a program that had been around before at Pflaum, and we updated it and united them. They were 2 separate types of programs. So we brought them into one so they could be used as a level 1, level 2. And they both are in conformity with the catechism and the subcommittee. The 3-step lesson process in both levels followed the way, truth, and life. And then just talking about the path of Jesus, they're reflecting on their own life and how it links to what Jesus is called the truth. Obviously the doctrine and the core of the lesson, and then how to live all of that out together. And there are sections about living as priest, prophet, and king, and mission work, and ministry, and outreach for both levels in an age-appropriate way. These will also be available digitally this fall. And as Terry mentioned, there is a Spanish edition as well that's just coming out now. The bonus resources are very helpful for parish leaders, catechists, parents, and even not only the candidates themselves, but their sponsors too. So quickly, just under the program directors, there are video links for every week, just like we have for the weeklies and for Together in Jesus, that correlate to the lessons. There's e-blasts for parents that you could send out in English or Spanish. If you're planning a retreat, there are some PowerPoints. These are almost like webinars, really. They're for the leaders to help prepare the retreat. And then we have reflections on the gifts of the Spirit and the fruits of the Spirit that you could send out as additional resources. We really packed the website and the bonus resources to help you especially if you're having a 2-year program, and the first year is just kind of just getting used to things, getting into the groove, and the second year is more of the in-depth learning. These things you could send out, particularly in the first year, just talking about the gifts of the Spirit or the fruit of the Spirit, or the videos. We have all those resources for you here. There are blog posts for every lesson that summarize the lesson, so it's a good reminder for the candidates or even for the parents to say this is what your child learned. And then we have articles and different resources available that support the program. For catechists, there's similar resources. We've added some other things here too. I'm just trying to see if there's the prayers to know. So these are the prayers, you can give these as handouts, digitally or in print, prayers and words to know. And then articles from Bayard's, Catechist and Catholic Digest, all the different resources that we've had. You can link to these articles and share these articles. And this is we see more resources to come because we add to this as we have more resources over time. And then parents, sponsors, and student resources have a lot of what I just showed you, but they can just go to that page and these are the things that they can pull from themselves, choosing a confirmation name, selecting a sponsor, and they can access a lot of this stuff themselves. So and there are 8 lessons in each level, and there are 8 pages each.
The lessons also break down into a 60 or a 90-minute class.
Yes.
If you have more classes than the 8, I've known some people that will put them divide one lesson into 2 lessons so that they have more lessons that way. So there's a variety of ways to be able to utilize it. A number of people will use the weeklies, visions level as their first year for confirmation, because especially if you have not seen them since they were 2nd graders, we want to make sure that they are rooted in the liturgical year and understanding the church at their developmental level. So that's a good way to kind of start with them. And some people then will also use the weeklies with visions level with confirmation program, but that's not as necessary because there's a lot of material in it. David, if I missed this, I was answering some stuff on chat. One of the things I really like about this confirmation program is at the end, there's always something that you're doing in between lessons. And sometimes it talks about doing it with another candidate, but I kind of like to say you could do it with a sponsor, because even if your sponsor is across the country or social distancing down the street, you can also do that digitally as well. To be able to say, how are you doing it? How are we connected into the larger community? And we have a number of resources that go with that as well. Separately, there's a service journal that we have that's very inexpensive, depending on bulk pricing on that. A regular journal, a lot of materials that could go, and a retreat.
Yeah, and the lessons are available individually, like we've shown you with Together in Jesus and the weeklies. And then also, thinking of another resource that just came out, it's a music or ritual resource. So if you're planning gatherings of some kind, when you can have those, or even virtually, you can do this too, prayer services. There are rituals for the different events that you'd have through the year, whether it's an enrollment ceremony or a rehearsal or receiving the Bible, for example. And then there's a Spotify playlist for each thing. So especially for the teens who probably use Spotify quite a bit, they could listen to the songs that would correlate to that, or a music director could use that to select the music to use within the program. That's available through us. It'll be in the catalog this fall, but it's published by 23rd Publications, which is also part of Bayard.
Can you comment on baptismal prep materials? I mean, we do have Father Joe Kemp's things that not necessarily, and also might want to highlight again that book you had because you said it's babies and children. So for children, it might be the one book that you picked up a minute ago.
Children
but if you want to talk about, I don't have it in front of me, but his video and his follow-up.
Yeah, let me go on to something else and I can pull that up.
Okay, while he's pulling that up, I do want to comment too that, which has come up privately in chat here, that do know that we want to come visit you in your parishes when we can, and we will, so we can do virtual meetings with you, either Jennifer or myself, to kind of talk about your own particular parish program, or we can do it by email, or if you would like an in-service, we will schedule in-services once an order is placed. I have a couple of them already where people have booked time going, if you can come, that's great. If not, we'll do it virtually. So we can set up a variety of ways to do that. And we have people that can do in-services in Spanish as well as me in English. I'm doing Duolingo, but that is not going to help for an in-service for you at this point. It's my learning for sheltering at home. I can buy a ticket on the train to Madrid, but I can't do it in service yet.
I'll show you this.
But I think that'll help. Okay, you ready?
Yeah. So when you see the price, don't get a sticker shock because I'll explain what it is. I was looking at it. Let's get a freak people out seeing $100. This is a 10-pack that for so 10 families, 10 children. You would get 10 of these plus the resources. But Terry could break this down if you just want. I just need one set. She can give you an individual price for that. This is the only thing that's coming up as a group. And Father Joe Kemp from St. Louis, many of you, especially been to LA Congress, would know Father Joe. He helped develop this program with us. There's a DVD that would be used for baptismal preparation for the parents. And then there are resources for the sponsor, for our godparent, for the parents.
David, you've frozen on us. Okay, so while we're waiting for David to unfreeze, I'm going to comment on it because I did buy a packet for my grandson when he was baptized a year and a half ago. One of the things that's kind of fun about it, because you do have the sponsor booklet, there's a little story booklet, that kind of thing, but there are cards in there that a sponsor or a parent, or not a parent, a grandparent could send the child on the anniversary of their baptism.
Use, especially
5 years. Are you there? Are you back? Okay.
Sorry about that.
So those cards were great, because the other thing I think it would do is, because often we don't see those children from the time that they are baptized until they're like pre-Kers or kindergartners. So this would be a way, if you could also, as a part of the parish community, not give them that, and you send out those cards every year to say, hey, we're thinking about you, and give them a little activity or something to be able to hold them in. That's where we're mentioning here the baptism birthday cards. I think there's a kind of a cool piece there.
So you would get a certificate, actually a sponsor baptism certificate, which I've never seen before. So the sponsor would get one as a nice gift too, as well as those birthday cards that Terry mentioned. There's a calendar with stickers in it for the first year of faith that's kind of interactive with the parents to indicate first steps, not only things happening in life, but also in faith, going to church the first time, maybe holidays or holy days, different things like that. And then a Bible storybook has 12 Bible stories. And then there's some clips of the video you could watch here, so you can see what Father Joe's doing. How's that?
Hopefully that answered the question on that. And then of course you've already shown that that small book for 9 to 12-year-olds on baptism.
Yes.
You could use. We also have a restored order program that people have used with our CIA for 2nd and 3rd graders that you can also get information from us on that as well. David, do you want to go over some of the other website kind of stuff and any new materials? Like, we didn't really do a lot on the website for PGW because we were going to kind of put it all at one time.
Sure.
I did mention that we will come out and do some work with you, like I said, in terms of training. And certainly, and I know that some of the other publishers have, unfortunately, have not been able to do that because of their own cuts or whatever. Hopefully they're doing some virtual trainings with you guys if you use somebody else. But we do like to be able to come out, and if not, we can certainly do things virtually with you. And I'm in San Jose. Jennifer's in Dayton, but she's working later hours, so she's easy to be able to assess by you. And we're always here to be able to support you and kind of look at materials that will help you. And hopefully some of you have been to our event at LA Congress the last couple of years. Hopefully we have LA Congress this year. I'm going to hold my cross.
They're going full steam as if we are.
They are.
I don't know. We'll see. So our main site, we tried to make this, we revised it this last summer, and we tried to make it even more easy to use so you could, catechists could go directly to the different sections. It's really geared in terms of helping catechists and teachers. But as a program director, obviously you can be accessing all of this. And there is, again, that program director section that gives you an overview of the entire program, as well as the Gospel for All Ages that I showed you earlier. So just scrolling through here quickly, We have most of our resources online are available in Spanish as well, and there's a new Spanish Family Resources tab. And just like in the English, the parents can go to that and see our resources in Spanish. These are quick links to the weekly videos, seasonal resources, and music as well, and then also for Gospel for All Ages. But you can click on a level, that's one way to go, and also through the different direct resources. So just looking at this drop down, you would find resources by the 5 levels, resources in Spanish, resources for families, which is always open free and does not need a password, so parents can access all of that directly. And now again, the Spanish tab for families. Catechists and teachers, program directors, another direct link for online assessments. The way we have our assessments set up is that the child taking the assessment would click on the level and the unit or the lesson test, and then there's a place that they would indicate where the email, which email to use. So if your catechist wants the email to receive the assessment, you would give the catechist email address. Some parishes give out create a special assessment email address. So they all go to that, so they're not flooding in one inbox at a time. They would just go to a specific one. So there's different ways to do that, but these get directly sent. So after they take the assessment, it gets sent. But you could also, they're also available in PDF form. You can print them. They're available in Word format. So if you want to change the questions or add to them, you can do that as well. There are different ways to make that, to expand the assessments. Weekly videos, I'll just click on this one right now to give you an example. And we keep them up through the whole year, so you can go back and look at other videos. Right now we have the last 2 lessons and then what we call late close lessons. So there are additional lessons beyond the 32 that you can still use, and people are doing that now, especially while there's home lessons. So when you click on, so this is for the late close lessons. There are themes. So there's one for the Ascension, for Pentecost. There's a Parable of a Good Samaritan video, all at age appropriate, in age appropriate selections. I'll go to one of the weeks so you can see. The first one is always an overview. We have our editors work with me. They create a quarterly webinar. I don't know if some of you have been on that already. That it's about an hour altogether, but we have it bookmarked for each lesson, so it breaks it down quite a bit. And the editors give a quick overview of how to teach the lesson, or really features in the lesson. How the lesson works, anything special, any special preparation. It's great, again, for a short overview of how to teach the lesson, especially for new catechists or for parents. So we have those bookmarked within the video so you can skip to the particular week and not have to watch the whole webinar at the same time. And those are recorded in Spanish as well. And then every week there are videos relating to the gospel for that Sunday, or any particular lesson-specific content. So here there was one on Archbishop Sheen, so there's an overview a little bit about that expands the lesson. There was something on Vatican II, so here's a video, Vatican II in 4 minutes. Something about a sister and a project, there's something here. And then we have some videos offered in Spanish as well. And those are easily accessible for parents and for catechists. Our music program, this is a direct link to those webinars I just explained. You could sign up, and I suggest you do this if you are not already part of it. Our Grow blog, it's a weekly video blog that has reading, it's reflections on the reading. So this is good enrichment for you or for your catechists. And then also you can ask questions here to our editors, to myself. There's reminders about resources that are related to this week's lessons, and you get a weekly newsletter on top of this blog itself. You get that sent to your inbox. That would be very helpful for all of the different things that you or your catechists are using as part of the program for this week. So then I'll click on a level, just to give you an
Or if you want to click on Gospel at Home.
Oh,
That's a
that's
family resource. This is a resource that I had really pushed for a lot of years ago when I first came on to here, and it enables you to, it enables parents to reflect on the gospel this week.
right.
You know,
Yeah,
our
so I'll
programs would change, wouldn't they, if everyone went to church, or secondly, if they would reflect on the gospel each week?
So when you go on a page, a level page, so this is the preschool page for Seeds. There are handouts for families, music. Liturgical learning model gives you an overview of the program. But the readings for Mass take you to the USCCB site, and parents would have access to this link too. So it's another way to link to the reading, the Sunday readings, and Saints and Feast calendar. Lots of different, again, the weekly videos. So the unit overviews are those webinars I just spoke about. Terry mentioned earlier that the teaching guides are available free online, and this is where you'd find them. So when you click on one of these tabs or these links here, it pops up. I don't know, can you see the pop-up? I'm assuming it can. And then you can download or print the guide. So that's another way you can send those guides home. A link again to weekly videos. We've done it in different ways, so no matter how you want to access them, we try to make it easy. So these get to those weekly videos as well. Gospel at Home gives a one-page summary that you could send out. So I'll just open one. That gives a quick overview of the scripture for the week, and then a summary of what the child learned in that lesson with a family prayer or activity at the end. And these are available, again, in English or Spanish every week through the program here. Then the lesson updates is whenever an editor or myself make mistakes, or forget a answer key or something like that, we have a place for that. But we also add things. So if there's a folding activity and somebody's having trouble on how to fold, or maybe it could be just as an extra help, we have a video or a PDF of how to work that activity. So anytime we have something that expands the lesson for the catechist, it would go in this lesson update section. Seasonal activities are even more seasonal activities for each season of the liturgical year, if you need that. Those early start and late close lessons, our lessons usually run from mid-September to mid-May, but you may want to start earlier, may have to start earlier, or now this year, who knows, we may have to start later. So we have these other lessons. And the activity books that Terry mentioned, those reproducibles, have an additional 3 activities for early start and 3 for late close for every level. So you really have a total of 6 lessons for the beginning of the year per level, and another 6 at the end if you have the activity books plus the free that we offer online. So it's quite a bit of additional content if you needed that. For Seeds and Promise levels, we have this extending activities feature, which includes additional crafts or activities for the younger children, and coloring pages as well. There are coloring pages for the stories that are presented in the program, and this fall, we'll have gospel coloring pages as well. So there'll be a 1-image coloring page that could be used either in Children's Liturgy of the Word, or could be used in Seeds and Promise as a coloring activity for the gospel. Weekly review template, which is what I showed you when I did the RCIA presentation. It just that's another alternative to assessments. And then we have this other resource called Teaching Companion, which is a way to expand on the doctrinal handbook, what the church believes and teaches, doctrinal handbook. If you wanted to actually teach from that and have activities from that, kind of expand on that, you could go to this Teaching Companion, and it really breaks down even further how to use that handbook. Then there are resource manuals for each level, a good overview of how the program works, how the levels work. So for Seeds, this would tell you as a catechist how the whole program works, gives a full overview of the program. And then we have scope and sequence charts that give you a full breakdown of the entire year. So you will see, here are all the 32 lessons, and then the Gospels is a word of the week in Seeds and Promise, and a faith word in the other levels, and then the 4 pillars of the Catechism and how that's presented over the course of the year. And we also have this available on the back of our teaching guides each quarter as well.
David, can you show prices, please? Because I can't share that screen.
Does it have it on here?
It shows it on the overview, or Jennifer, can you pull up a catalog in front of you and put that in the chat?
Oh, here.
Oh, there we are. 1345 is for seed. This is for the full year, for Seeds and Promise and Good News in English. It's that's the same for digital, so it'll be digital or print will be the same price, and then as I said, there'll be a minimal charge if you want both of those. I think we lost. Let me grab it.
It has a breakdown.
Wheel across here. Okay, so for English, it's $13.45. It's only 50 cents more if you want bilingual. So it's $13.95 for Seeds, Promise, and Good News in bilingual. If you're looking at Venture and Visions, because those are double the cost. So those are 4 pages for the younger kids, is an 8-page lesson for the older students. So those are, in English, they're $14.45. And bilingually, they're $14.95. So they're only $1 more to go from the younger kids to the older kids, and it's only 50 cents more to get the bilingual version. And so you'll be able to do that as print or digital. That's why I'm going to kind of push the pickup parties a little bit with stations and stuff. Hit me up and email me, and I'll send you a copy of that. If you want to see that prior, or there'll be a minimal charge. We're still looking at that. David says maybe, I saw an email yesterday on that, but it's not firmed yet. What we saw yesterday was about $1.50. I don't know if that's going to be, he said
that should be right.
that'll probably be that if you want both, if you want access digitally and print.
We're just finalizing everything with our IT department to make sure that it's a little different than most textbooks. Because of the quarterly, we have to make sure it's set up almost like a magazine if you're getting a digital subscription. So we want to make sure that everything is going to be as clean as possible in terms of how to order. And then if you wanted to switch over, if somebody's getting print, digital, if you're not going to have the both options the whole year, we have to make sure all those different things work in our system before we can release the whole ordering process. And that we're trying to finalize that the next week or so.
And just so that you know, confirmation, we have a variety of ways of doing pricing on that. There's combo packs if you're looking at, adding the journal and stuff. But if you're just looking at candidate lessons, they are, and let me go back to the PGW. That's for 10 plus copies. So if you're and that's 10 plus copies total, not like 10 Seeds, 10 Good News, 10 however. So it's mix and match. Okay, it's a higher price if you're ordering less than that. For the confirmation program, they are $12.45 each. But if you're ordering 10 or more copies, they're $11.45 each, and they're not dated. So if you order more, that would be fine. The Spanish, I don't have in this catalog what the prices on the Spanish. David, do you know what that is?
Okay, the Spanish confirmation?
Right, I'm assuming it's
the same price.
English. Yeah, okay, so the same as the English. And then if you're looking at First Eucharist and First Reconciliation, English is $11.95. If you order 10 or more copies, it's $10.95. The bilingual version is $1 more for that. Other than that, I think that covers most of the pricing. I'm trying to be aware of our time here. I think we've covered just about everything in the chat. Did we overwhelm you?
There's so much to learn.
Yeah, I mean, we have like just about 5 minutes or so. So if if you have a question you want to, you can't raise your hand on Zoom. So,
I think
but if
at this point,
you
Terry,
want to unmute yourself and ask something, is there
Terry, I think at this point, if there are any outstanding questions, I would just ask the person to unmute themselves and just ask the question.
okay, that sounds good. Okay.
Okay,
great.
if there's any outstanding questions, otherwise, if there's nothing else to add, then we could probably just close in prayer. So any outstanding questions, this is your moment.
We've either stunned them, David, or
I'll say this, with all the web resources for both Together in Jesus and for Gospel for All, for the Gospel Weeklies, we have online, there are videos that give overview. You can go to our Pflaum YouTube page and you'll find it there, or on our website. Both homepages have an overview of all the web resources that I went over. So it goes a little bit more in depth from what I just did.
And I see people on here who use us as use some of our programs. Do any of you want to make a comment on how it went with you this year?
Well, I can. Melinda from St. Gabriel's.
Hi.
I guess I could put on video. Let me put on video just so you can see. Okay.
There you are.
Yeah, figured to show you. We used it this year, and thank you so much for sending the PDF files. They were very helpful. What we ended up doing, some of our venture where we had 6th grade on Zoom, our teacher was able to split the screen where you had the kids on one side and she had the PDF on the left, and everybody got to read the gospel together, and they would pick it, you know, each window who picked what part they were playing to read the gospel. So it was very, very effective online.
Oh, good.
When we were able to do it that way. And it's hard to keep 6th grade's attention online. That I can tell you that's pretty hard. But with them all able to focus on it on the screen and they're all familiar with it from having been in the classroom, it was like something familiar they could grab onto. So thank you for that and doing
Good.
that. Yeah, so my question early on was when you guys do the digital version, it sounds, are you just going to put a PDF into a subscription type format?
No, it would be a digital platform like most of our competitors would have, the other publishers. There would be a bookshelf that every child will have access to an account. We can't do it the PDF simply because then they could be shared with anybody who's not subscribing. We did that for Unit 4 as a courtesy because of the emergency.
So could we do the format I was just talking about? If the teacher had the subscription, could they bring it up on their screen and share it with the other people in the class so they're all focused on the same thing?
Well, I would think that that's possible. I guess you can certainly do that. Have everybody having their own copy would obviously be most ideal. I don't see why they couldn't do that.
Right, but to keep them all on the same page together, exactly what Terry was talking about earlier, somebody's on page 40 or page 150, right. Whereas if the teacher's controlling it, everybody's focused on the same page online when you're teaching remotely. So right. I think it's necessary. The other question, go ahead.
The other way would be if Terry's suggestion about the pickup party, that they would have the printed lesson and then sharing the digital version, the catechist could say, here, this is where you should be, and then they could have the lesson in front of them on that page too. That's another way to do it.
Well, that would be ideal, but at least we'd have it on the page and she could have a pointer to say, look at this. So the hyperlink question I had earlier was, you know how in your lesson plans you have go to your handbook and learn about, okay. I think it would be ideal in your digital version if you're on that part of the page, the teacher could click on it and it would pop up. So then
I'd have to look into that if that's possible. That's a good suggestion. Yes.
Okay, so that was where I was going with, because a lot of digital books you can do a lot.
Jump to that.
Yeah, you can do a lookup. Okay, that was.
I'll say this as a publisher. I could answer. I've talked to some others at Sadlier and RCL and all the others. Just like you're having to figure out things, we're doing the same thing.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, so some of this will happen over time. If we can't do something like that right away, yes. I mean, ideally, I'd love to have a platform like that we can, the assessments could come right up at the end, tracking tools. But you know, we're trying to do this along the way, just as much as you guys are trying to figure it out. So, but all these suggestions are great because it helps build. That's where we came up with the outline for the pickup party and for the parent teaching guides,
Yeah.
from what you need right now.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Joseph, you had something you want to say? You're muted.
Yeah.
No, I was just applauding in the fact that you're all in together. So no, I'm raising my hand in applause. So thank you both for this. I think these are great resources that can really be adapted for both those with access to computer technology and those that don't have it. So I really applaud you on this. It's great.
Thanks.
And I would say too, just keep talking with David, keep talking with us, you know, as we're trying to figure this out. And a lot of the things that we've been working on or they've been working on have been coming from all of you folks, you know, so and that's important that we keep that dialogue going so that we're all in this together as we're trying to figure this out, because it's tough learning new stuff.
Yeah. And I'd say that's the strength of this program too. We do work a lot off of customer suggestions. It could be that, you know, a story used to work a few years ago, a few cycles ago in the church year, and now maybe for preschool it doesn't work for some reason, or it could be a little better, and we make those adjustments. I keep track every year of anything that comes back good and not so good, and we make those adjustments in the next time. So really, it is a very much an interactive relationship between the user of the subscriber and the publisher.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you, Terry, David, and Jennifer for your time this morning and for really expanding on all that Pflaum has to offer. So thank you for that. We've met our time, so we are again very grateful for your partnership and your support for our parish.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting us to do this.
Absolutely.
You are the most organized diocese of them all.
I would say I've been doing this across the country. This is the most organized I've seen. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, thank you very much. And if you wouldn't mind just helping us close our session in prayer.
Sure. Dear Lord, we thank you for our time together. We ask you to bless those children, those families that are in our care. Watch over them. Help us all learn how to minister in this very challenging time. Also, we pray for our country and all its division, that you may heal us and show us the path to truth and to peace. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you again, everybody,
Thank you so much
for joining us this morning. Remember, we will make the resources that Terry and David and Jennifer shared in a Zoom, sorry, not in a Zoom, in a Flock note that we'll send out with the video as well for your reference. And again, thank you for your support and for joining us. God bless you, everybody.
Okay, thanks. Have a good day. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.